Hello, all you drama enthusiasts. Welcome to the meeting. This is Angie's Drama Room, and I am your meeting host, Angie. And today we're going to be discussing the breakdown. It's not necessarily the weekly roundup because I already mentioned these dramas that I have already watched. However, these is the breakdown of the dramas that I had completely finished watching, and I'll just give you a few thoughts of what I felt about the dramas. And today is going to be the Korean dramas. Before I go into that, please hit that subscription button. I appreciate all the subscriptions I have gotten lately. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for viewing my shorts and viewing my videos. I really appreciate that. But however, you haven't yet to subscribe to my channel. So please go ahead and hit that subscription button if you have just launched it today and you have yet to subscribe. And again, I appreciate everyone who has tuned in and subscribed to my channel. All right, so let's talk about In Your Radiant Season. This one was a 12 episode drama, and it was on Hulu, which is Disney Plus. But here in the States, we had to watch it on Hulu. And so it was okay, to say the least. I did finish completely watching it. It's just that it was very paced. So it wasn't like it was something that you had to rush in to watch it and want to see everything. It was a normal pacing show. The ending was what I expected. However, I think it could have been a little bit more dramatic at the end of why all this stuff came to about. And he basically couldn't remember what happened with the accident. And they really wanted to focus on just the mental stress and the mental health of our two leads and what they were going through. I like the other sisters. So everyone had a relationship. Each sister had a relationship, and even the grandmother had a relationship. So, and I liked the relationship between both of the other two sisters, and I think their relationship was a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more captivating than our leads. However, it was still good watch. I liked the teenagers. They were cute. I liked them. The grandmother had a relationship. I like that. I'm not going to really give you too much of a spoiler unless you would continue to watch it, but I liked the grandmother, and how it ended was really nice. The only thing I did not like about the show was the sickness trope that the grandmother had. It didn't make sense. It made sense of the sickness. However, she has yet to get totally diagnosed of what was wrong with her. So she's playing in her mind, assuming because of what she was going through, this is what her diagnosis was. And so she was already writing letters to her granddaughters. She made, since she was a fashion designer, she made these special dresses because since if she's not going to be there, she might not be there for their wedding. So she made these special dresses. And again, she has not gotten totally diagnosed of what was wrong with her. And then she was going to run off to Paris and don't even mention it to none of her granddaughters. She was just going to go there and hopefully they're not going to go find her. And that kind of did make sense. And she was already planning this out already. And so she was hiding it from everybody. She was even hiding it from her suitor, who was the older gentleman. He just happened to find out by chance. But the only person who actually knew what was going on with her was the youngest sister's boyfriend, because he is the one who helped her through her situation before they even first met and before they even knew who they were. So that was the only thing I kind of didn't like about it. It's usually sickness tropes in dramas. It doesn't make sense to me that they don't tell nobody nothing about their sickness. And I think it was Love Next Door was the most weirdest one ever, because she had cancer and she was in the States. She had cancer and she told nobody, not even her own parents, that she was ill. And the only person that was there to help her through it was some boyfriend who was Korean, who was there too in the States, and they just got together. And then she finds this thing, and he helped her through it, but didn't necessarily really help her through it, because she said, I can do it on my own. And again, only reason he knew was because they were living together. But however, I did completely finish watching it, and if I can give it a grade, I guess I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It really wasn't much to it, but I did tune it in just to figure out what was going to happen at the end. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people will watch the first 4 episodes, because that's what they're saying. They usually get the first 4 episodes and catch you right there, but then in the middle, it kind of just fell short, and then people always goes to the end just to see what happens. So that's kind of what happened with In Your Radiant season. Let's talk about Siren Kiss. That one also has completely finished airing. This was with Park Min Young and Ha Joon. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I enjoyed Siren Kiss. However, the suspense wasn't suspenseful that you would thought. It really played out just the way you thought who done it. And it's usually they always try to put a twist that the who done it is really not the who done it, but in this case, it is who you expected it to be. But it did tell you why he was doing it. It kind of didn't make sense. So, but they really didn't touch on it. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably reason why he did it was because of the abandonment that he felt when it came to his mother and his father. That's the only logic reason I really had. That reason why it was him and why he would have done it. And so the whole thing came together, but because it was on Prime Video, it was English dubbed. So the emotions and the reflections from the actor and the actresses really didn't bring it forth if they were using their original language. So, but that's the only thing about it is I think it probably would have been a lot more impact, at least for my sake, that if it was English, if it was using the original language and I just had to read subtitles. But because it was English dub, there was no reflection, no nothing in their voice. And the other thing is, with Park Min Young character, even to the end, because there was nothing reflecting to show her emotions enough, that I still was wondering if she still was the one who did it, even into the end of the end. And I'm like, did she still have something to do with it? I know I read somewhere, I'm not quite sure it's true, but they said that during one of her interviews, the director always wanted us to be one of those on the edge of our seats wondering if she's really the one who had done it all. So that was one of the things. And again, the suspense was okay, but it wasn't as powerful, suspenseful that you would have thought it to be, and how everything came together. But it was still an enjoyable watch. I would still give it maybe a 7 out of 10 again, because it was because of the English dub. Even with that, it just wasn't an impact that I expected it to be when I was watching Siren Kiss. Let's talk about also Our Universe. I know I mentioned it before on my weekly roundup, and at that time I did not finish watching it. However, in this time I did finish watching the last 2 episodes. I think I was only down to 2 episodes that I had to watch. So I did finish watching the last 2 episodes. The thing about Our Universe, I was online and a lot of people were talking about Our Universe, how it wasn't the greatest of shows. Our Universe really is a teen show, a young adult show. It wasn't going to be for my generation or even somewhere between the 10-year span of my generation. I think it was mostly, but everybody had the same sense as the fact is the little boy, the nephew, was adorable. He was so cute and adorable. And that's kind of only reason why you kind of came in and tuned in. The male lead actually was a little bit better than the female lead, I thought, where the female lead, she kind of just went through the motions of the character, not necessarily engrossing herself into the character as trying to be the mother figure, the girl, try to be a girlfriend, work. It was supposed to have been like the balance as being a young person in your 20s, having to now take on a toddler and then having to also work. And so that's kind of how they were trying to incorporate everything together. Now, the that's the reason why I said is because the male lead actually kind of incorporated everything together better than she would have done it as a person who was taking care of a child. The point of them actually getting together, there was no really, I won't say it wasn't an impact. It's like you knew they had to get together, so boom, there you are, they're together. There was not much of a, it's like they came together as a need than as in love. You know, that's kind of how I looked at it. And also she had like a suitor, like when she went to college. And I think the guy liked her and he was about ready to confess to her when they were in college, but something happened and she had to rush home. And I think it had something to do with her sister. And so they lost contact for all these years. And so then when he came back, that's when they found each other again. And that's when he tried to come back and build another relationship with her. To me, either one of them would have worked. It wasn't like he was a bad person. It wasn't like the male lead was a bad person. So it wasn't, so either one of them would have been fine. And I just said, if I would have had to pick between the two, I would have picked the college sweetheart, only because they had a more of a bond relationship than him, the male lead, when they just kind of came together as a need. But and then the last two episodes, episode 11 was just going through the motions. There was nothing. They were just playing together. The relationship. So they took the kid to music parks, to the arcade. They were, doing stuff like this. That was episode 11. End of episode 11, something happened with the little boy. I'm just going to tell you, if you're going to spoilers, if you wanted to see, if you didn't see it, some people cut it off already. But however, end of episode 11, the little boy got lost in the mall. It happens all the time. Kids get lost. So she's running around frantically trying to find it. Now, before that happened, they said just because she was the next of kin did not guarantee her guardianship to that boy. And I'm like, well, who's going to take it then? Take him then. If your own next of kin, and because I guess the sister didn't have a will, I'm assuming, or the brother-in-law didn't have a will, so it wasn't guaranteed that she would have guardianship of her own nephew. And that didn't make sense. I mean, who else would have done it? So she had to go through, child welfare. She had to go through them in order to prove that she would be a good guardian to her nephew. And so when she lost the boy, somebody found the little boy, took him to the office. And then the next day when she had her meeting, just so happens the person who found the little boy was the social worker on her case. And so that was to her. And so the social worker, that was a red flag towards the social worker. Again, it happens. It will happen even if you are a mother to the child. That stuff happens. But in her mind, she's thinking that she's irresponsible because she lost the kid. So now she's giving her another chance. So she said, okay, let's go to, I'm doing a home visit. So then she says, okay. So then she goes into the home visit. And while they're at the home visit, she was about ready to open the door for something. I can't remember what she was doing, but she left the door open. The front door of the apartment open. So because then the little boy hurt himself. So she was trying to find bandage or some Band-Aid or something for the kid. So she was reaching up for it. So you knew something's about ready to happen, but either something's going to fall on her or fall on the kid. No, what ended up happening was she reached for it, she grabs it. Next thing you know, she hears a scream out the door. So the little boy walks out the door and falls down the, supposedly falls down the steps, but just the person who caught it was the social worker. And then the social worker went off on her and said that this is neglect. This is almost like child abuse. So she had CPS come, which is Child Protective Services, come to remove the child out of her house, out of her care. Now, again, accidents happen. It was irresponsible for her to leave the door open. And granted, she said we all trying to figure this thing out together. I don't know nothing about being a mother or a guardian to a toddler. So I guess in their mind is the fact is she should have maybe researched a little bit more, should have more safety guards put up. And they still had the little boy sleeping on the floor in the living room because she didn't want to put the boy in her sister and brother-in-law's room. So yeah. And so because she was the one who was signing off on the guardianship and not the male lead, so he wasn't there when all this stuff was going down. So they didn't have him there. So they took the child out of the thing. So it just seems to me the way the social worker was acting, it seemed like to me she had almost like a revenge out for her because of all this stuff that was going down or something. It just seems like it was just too much and pressure that they put on her to say that she's now being child abuse. She's neglecting the child because the child fell. Accidents happen. It was tragic that the child fell down the stairs, but removing the child out of her care because of that. So now they had to go back around and research it. The other issue was because of the male lead's father. He didn't know because his brother never told him that the father was in jail for fraud. So he never knew that the father was, I don't think he ever knew the father was in jail. I don't think so, because he was going to call him. And then when he was going to call him, he never answered. And so that's when the accident happened. And so that was another red flags that the social worker used against them, because she's saying that because you were in care, you left the care of the toddler with the grandfather and then the grandfather ended up getting caught because he was trying to steal the insurance. So he got sent back to jail because he was out on probation. And so that's when that's what he's saying, that you should have been more closely so that's kind of what happened. And that's another red flag. But however, I did completely watched it. It's just that there was nothing in fluctuation of emotions that would draw you 100% in order to watch it. And that's the only thing. But it was actually not bad, but only thing that really made it was the little nephew. Even whenever he was on screen, he was just adorable and cute. There was one scene that it was off. So the male lead was taking the toddler to daycare, but he kept hollering, kept crying. So the neighbor said, "I'll take him." And so, but the next scene was the female lead going to the daycare to pick up the child. Well, then he left the baby with the neighbor. Now you're saying now the female lead goes to the daycare to pick up the child. So, and it's actually the next scene. So it wasn't nothing in between. Let's talk about Still Shining. I dropped that like a hot potato. The Still Shining, again, is probably more focused on the young adults, the teens or young adults. It is a slow pace. It's supposed to be a melodrama, but a coming of age. And it was very slow paced. So you have to either like the genre, you have to like the just coming together and having things happen in the relationship that will tear them apart and then come back together. But however, it was boring. I get it. I get the slow pace, but I found it to be boring. And there was no real set emotions. they were fine. It was like they kind of just threw the situation at you without any context of what the situation was about. I still don't, I couldn't know, was his younger brother. So what happened in the beginning was that the younger brother and the parents got into an accident. The parents passed away, and so the younger brother has had something done with his foot. So his foot was, something was wrong with his foot. And I'm assuming he was one of the soccer star players of the school. And so the older brother, which is our male lead, which was Park In Young, he picked him up, and that's how it started. He just takes him off the bus. Then he goes and takes him home to the grandparents. And so they're all living with their grandparents. But it seems like the Park In Young seemed like he was living in Seoul with with somebody else. But when the younger brother got hurt, he went back to the grandparents to live because everybody knew who his younger brother was. So I don't know. And so because he was so smart, I guess this happens during the summer, I'm assuming, or somewhere towards the summer, because all they had was where they were in study classes. He had a special study class, but I don't think he ever went to school. And so the female lead was there too. Why she was there, who knows? But she had the key to the door to allow them coming in and out of the study room. That's what I'm saying. It's just, and so they got together. They had a little teen romper, and then he was now tutoring other students for college exam for this. And then she was interning at a hotel. And so that is what drew them apart, because she was busy interning and they just could never find a way to get together. So that was what was tearing them apart. Her intern, it was weird. They were supposed to get together, but she called it off because she drew a picture of a corn on the cob. She drew oh, that's so beautiful. We love it. Can you continue to do it? And so she's drawing a picture of a corn. I mean, is that really that important that you need to have that done right then and right there? So that's it. I stopped there. It really was not much more that it was driving me. And it kind of, at this point, we were just going through the motions between them. And again, it's a slow pace genre melodrama. And if you like that, you like it. But even if it was slow paced, I still found it kind of boring. There was nothing there to drive my emotions either way. Happy, sad, they get, so that's the only thing about that. So those are the dramas that I have completely finished watching, or then again, those ones I stopped watching, which were still standing. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the subscriptions I've gotten. As I said in the beginning, I seen you guys been viewing it. If you just hit that view and you saw something that you liked, anything that you liked, just hit that subscription button, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Meeting adjourned.